Everyone, I'm going to do the second part here in reading more of the letter to President Biden, as it has all of the information of the investigation enclosed with it. As I told you, I'm kind of busy helping a friend in a crisis situation, and it'll be like, okay, she won't answer for a while, and then I'll think I can start this and it doesn't go. So I'm going to break it up into a few things. I do apologize for that. Hopefully, when I put it in a playlist, it'll all come together. So I read the one transcript. So let's see here. We're going to go to the next. Looks like the way that they have a witness statement. And this is from Suni Jasil Popaka Milan. And it says that they're a specialized unit for the investigation of miscellaneous crimes in its jurisdiction. And this is the interview at the Criminal Justice Center located at Calipabo de Arco of Palo Escopeta, Colvivan, Las Veritas, San Jose del Cabo, BCS. And this is it's blurred there, but it's she's got something in tourism, so something in tourism, and maybe a customer service concierge. I can't tell it right there. And so that's the person's identifiers. And this was done, and it's at the Baja California State Attorney General's office. Now, if you were to look at that, that'd be easy to think that you're, in California. Duh, you're back in the United States. No, it's actually on the very, very southmost point of North America, where there's Baja Sur. It's called California, so there's essentially two Bajas. I've been there. I've been there. So it's like you're in Cabo and you go down this one road and you see some skinny old cows and you keep going down this dust road and you keep going until you can't go anymore. And then literally there's the Hotel California, where the song is about and stuff. So this is still in Mexico where they've done this. So that's where there might be some confusion, just to let you know if you're looking at this and going, what is this, huh? So this says here, this is my statement given to investigation agent Suni Jasil Papaka Malan in reference to the facts that are being investigated today after informing me the reason of my presence in the interview. I have been employed by Redacted or Cabo Villas in the United States where I work as a concierge in attention and customer service. I provide service assistance with doubts, any service that is needed, for approximately 3.5 years. Okay. On October 28, 2022, I had been informed of the arrival of some guests to the Villa Casa Linda 32, which is located in Padre Quino, Puerto Fundadores, Puerto Las Cabos, San Jose del Cabo, and Calle Padre Guilin. The day before, I was sent to the work schedule of the villas that we were to take care of as concierges, so I know the guests of the Casa Linda Villa would arrive around 3 p.m. on October 28, 22. The main client was Dejani Jackson with a phone number of 1-860-888-9330, who contacted me around noon by text message to report that her flight had been delayed due to the weather and that she would be telling me how her new arrival time, confirming to me that it would be at 17:19 p.m. So that's 5:19 p.m. Then she asked me if after arriving and taking the transportation she could stop and do some shopping, to which I responded there is no problem. Then she told me that she would be letting me know the time they were going to arrive. She texted me when they left the shopping center. She arrived at the Casa Linda Villa around 2000 hours. I had arrived at the villa about 15 minutes before, and upon entering, I see a person of slim build, Afro-American, about 1.75 meters tall, about 25 to 30 years old, to whom I introduced myself since he asked me who I was. I told him that I am his concierge and that I will be supporting his vacation in everything he needs. Also at the villa were chef redacted and waiter redacted, who were employees of the company and coworkers. Moments before, when I saw the guest, I was surprised since I wasn't aware there were guests already at the villa, to which the chef told me. And then there's signatures there. Okay. And it says that the two people, a couple, had arrived at the villa a few hours before. However, I only saw the male guests described above. I prepared my registration sheets and the information I have to provide to the client: guacamole, tortilla chips, margaritas, and I waited for the main client, who arrived almost immediately in Trescabo's transport. These bottles of alcohol and tequila, put down their suitcases, and started taking pictures of the villa. Let me see here. Just a second, of course, we got that. Um, just a second. All right, let's see. Of course, it's like, and okay, it says a couple had arrived at the villa a few hours before. I only saw the male guests described above. I prepared my registration sheets, the information I've had to provide the client: guacamole, tortilla chips, margaritas, and I waited for main client, who arrived almost immediately in Trescabo's transport. They got off with their groceries, bottles of alcohol and tequila, put down their suitcases, and started taking pictures of the villa. They looked excited. In total, 5 people arrived: 3 women, 2 of them African American, and one between African American and mixed Latino of them. The one named Dejani Jackson, who was of sturdy build, tall, dark skin, with a thick voice. She was accompanied by 2 male guests of African American descent, both of slim build. One of them had dreadlocks. I introduced myself to the main guest, Miss Jackson, as her concierge, and welcomed her. I asked if she would like to see the villa and show her to her rooms, along with some of the guests or friends to decide who would stay in the rooms. We returned to the dining room to sign the documents, which consist of guest registration, insurance included in the villa, and residential complex rules, and provide a copy of each of them, registering the following: Cahill Cook, Malik Dwyer, Winter Donovan, Shanquella Robinson, Elise Hyatt, Dejani Jackson, Nazir Wiggins, and then something else, and it says Investigation Agent Suni Jasil Popaka Milian in this act. The main guest stayed at the master bedroom, which is located at the end of the living room. There are 2 rooms at the end of the kitchen, or a TV or entertainment room. Then an access with an open area which connects 3 more rooms. The first room is on the left waterfront, and the other room is right and also waterfront. And the third room, which is a double, not waterfront, being this at the end of the garage. I went to the room of the main client, Mrs. Jackson, to mention that her dinner was ready since 20 hours, and that if it needed to be extended, they would be charged an extra hour, which she did not agree, and sent everyone to dinner, since everyone was settling in her room. Minutes later, they all sit at the table and begin to drink a lot. This is when I met Miss Shanquella, who was the last one to um, arrive at the table to celebrate. Noticing her in a strange, illegible attitude, she seemed to not fit. Okay, wait a minute. I went to the room of the main client, Mrs. Jackson, to mention to her that her dinner was ready since 20 hours, and that if it needed to be extended, they would be charged an extra hour, which she did not agree to, and sent everyone to dinner. Since everyone was settling in her room. Minutes later, they all sit at the table and begin to drink a lot. That is when I met Miss Shanquella, who was the last one to, and it maybe approach the table to celebrate, noticing her in a strange, illegible attitude. She seemed to not fit in with the others. Okay, and this is important. This is why I'm going back through this, because there was something mentioned about how the others were treating her. They were treating her like she was like the butt of the joke or something. And so it's interesting that this person notes this. Um, Last one to fit at the table, noticing her in a strange, illegible attitude. Strange. I mean, I'm wondering what illegible, strange something attitude. She seemed to not fit in with the others. When I introduced myself, she did not greet me or smile. She was indifferent. Nothing to do with the atmosphere of celebration. She was out of place at that party. I made sure that they were seated, having dinner, sharing and celebrating, and that they had the information for the internet, the audio, the operation of the house, and everything was already. I left. Once everything was ready, I left. All of the clients, chef, and then well, with phone number redacted and waiter redacted, with phone number stayed at the place. The next day at 13:50 or 13:52 hours, I received a text message from the main guest, Miss Jackson, asking me if I'm available and at which was the nearest medical service. I greeted her and asked her how I could support her and if she was looking for a hospital, and she answered yes. She said, I think my friend has alcohol poisoning and needs emergency service and someone to speak or translate in Spanish for us. I offered to send her to a doctor so he could determine if it was necessary to go to the hospital, and I told her that the doctor speak English, and she said, yes, please. I told her that it costs $100 for the visit, plus the medicine. I ask her if she agrees, and she answers yes as soon as possible. I tell her that I will make the call to request the service, to which she answers, yes, please. Around 2 o'clock p.m. on October 29th, 22, I called Dr. who is our contact for medical attention of the guests and whose phone number is. Okay, so it's really interesting how this went from one thing to the other so fast, because that's where. Okay, so then we go down here. So it went to that. And in about 4 minutes, Miss Jackson texted me asking me what I had been told, and I answer her that a doctor is going to contact her for a friend. And she replies, okay, attached to this document is a screenshot of the conversation with Miss Jackson and where she asked me for medical help. And the conversation was recorded on 3 letter-sized sheets of paper attached here too. At 16:25, she texted me and told me that the girl has to be hospitalized because after being evaluated, she has to be hospitalized, that her friends were finding out if they had insurance, to which I asked if she's in serious condition, and the doctor said no. but that she does need an IV, that she's practically unconscious, and that's why she had to be hospitalized. Okay, this is weird because this does not add up to what happened, so fast. Let me see. Later, that administrator with the telephone number called to ask me if I requested an ambulance for the villa, and I told him no, and he tells me that the security of Los Cobos is asking him about the request access of an ambulance to Casa Linda number 32. Later, Redacted called me to tell me that the guest had died. See, okay, this is where, okay, this is how, okay, what, like I say, I don't ever look ahead, and this is this is why I'm going what, because how does it go hospitalized, insurance, needing this, she's dead. This does not make any sense. How did this, they're at this party, she's acting weird, out of place, they call for the what, this does not make any sense. Well, maybe this is the problem, none of this makes sense. You see, blah 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 blah, there's no other way, ask for medical help. Okay, the conversation recorded on 3 letter size paper. Texted me, told me the girl has to be hospitalized because after being evaluated, she has to be hospitalized, and her friends were finding out if they had insurance. But she's not alive. To which I asked if she's in serious condition. The doctor says no. How does she need an IV if she's not alive? Though she's practically unconscious, and that's why she had to be hospitalized. Later, the administrator called to ask if I requested an ambulance for a villa. I told him no. He tells me security is asking about the request of access of an ambulance. Called to tell me the guest had died and asked me to go there as soon as possible. What? Okay, this tells me there's so much CYA because this was really unclear in the first reports too, um, whether or not she had passed away in the motel room, if she had gotten an IV in the motel room, if the doctor came there, and now you just have this jumble, and it goes from one paragraph to that. It's really weird. Let me see. Called some of the guests has died and asked me to go there as soon as possible. He's already on his way to help in whatever way he can. Well, it's a little frickin' late. I went to Puerto Las Cabos from Cabo San Lucas after having spoken with Redacted. Upon arriving at the villa, I find a couple of municipal police officers talking to Redacted in the parking lot area of the house, and one of the guests, who was African American descent, regular build, short hair, was coming and going from the house and calling by cell phone a relative or friend in the United States, using Redacted as a translator. I also saw the main client, Miss Jackson, making contact with the male guest and on several occasions entering and leaving the house. During this time, I'm waiting for Redacted to tell me what to do, since he are my concierge team leader. So I enter the house where I initially observe the guests relaxed and calm, sitting in the living room area near the bar and dinner table. Okay. My purpose was to look for the main guest, Miss Jackson, and give her my condolences. When I talked to her, I give her my condolences. She thanked me and told me that they had talked to her friend's mother and mentioned that this was so fast to lose her in an instant for having had too much alcohol. I asked if I could give her a hug, to which she said yes, and she gave me a very indifferent hug, very cold. Okay, this is where, when she said condolences, I'm going, wait a minute, because they know that something. Okay, this is so confusing. Okay, so the fight video must have not came out until the next day. That this must have been right here where they still had everything covered up and they were just acting like their friend just passed away from an alcohol overdose. Mm. So I asked her if I could give her a hug, to which she said yes. She gave me a very indifferent hug, very cold. I saw a very sad guest, a skinny girl, and I saw that she was in pain. I left that area and stayed outside the main entrance to give them space to mourn and grieve. Minutes later, I heard laughter. What? Oh my God. So she's like, so this concierge goes over, as anybody would, probably to help with the arrangements, goes to condolences. And they're like, oh, yeah, give her a weird cold hug. Wait till she's leaving. And then you hear him laughing. Wow. Ugh. I don't know how much you guys saw in social media when this was, really a popular story. The Idaho 4 happened and this story got put far away. It definitely got overshadowed by the Idaho 4. Um, Social media, people were kind of taking care of the people that needed to be called out on social media. Um, the things I saw, were pretty intense. And I see why now because um, the people that did this are freaking evil. They are straight out of hell. Um, Shanquella had no chance. She was hit so dang hard. She was on the floor. And if you guys have seen that video, she's on the floor. She can't, like I said, she was internally decapitated. And you hear the other person, maybe the person filming, going, "Oh, come on, Kella, can't you do something? Can't you hit back? I mean, come on, can't you do something?" And she's like, obviously she couldn't. Just freaking sick. Laughter. Oh, all right. Laughter. So it sounds like this person heard the laughter and turned around on their heels and was, going to be like, WTF, right? And she says, I approached, redacted, who told me to leave, to go back to my villas in Cabo San Lucas, that he will be in charge of follow up and supporting the clients and the authorities. I said goodbye to the clients and I left for Cabo San Lucas. Later, around 21:30 hours, so, 11:30, the main guest contacted me to request transportation to go to dinner because they'd not eaten anything all day due to the situation. Oh, so they're hungry. They're thinking of eating after their friend died and they think it's funny. Like I said, these people they weren't friends. They were straight out of hell. Absolutely straight out of hell. So I called Redacted with phone number Redacted, who owns Land and Transfer, requesting transportation for the clients of Villa Linda 32 to San Jose to go to dinner because they'd not eaten anything. The driver advised of his departure from Villa Linda 32 to San Jose del Cabo to find a restaurant for dinner. At the end of the service, the driver, Redacted, with phone number Redacted, reported via audio message on the WhatsApp chat of the Lands and Transfer group that the service had ended and that he had left the guests at the airport hotel. The next day, Redacted called me to tell me that the maid was reporting that there was no one in the villa, that if I had been notified that they were leaving, to which I replied that no, that the day before they'd only requested transportation to the center. So later, around 11 in the morning, I sent a message to Miss Jackson to offer my support, asking if everything is okay and if there was anything I could do for it, without getting a response until the next day, Monday, October 31st, 2022, when she texted asking me if she had anything else for checkout. If she had to sign anything, I could email it to her, as they already left. Later, she asked me for the property's manager number, so minutes later I sent it to her. Days later, I found out that there's a lot of controversy because of the news and the video of the main guest, Miss Dejanay Jackson, hitting her friend Shanquella, the guest who died. When I saw the video in social media, I realized that practically the main guest, Miss Jackson, had manipulated me. Yeah, with the information she provided as what happened, to leave the country as soon as possible. It should be noted that she put the name of Nazir Wiggins as the last person on the guest list or registry. Oh, now we go over here. The government of the state of Baja California, sir, state attorney general's office, and the director of forensic sciences, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so licensed Suni Jasil Papaka Milan, criminal investigation agent assigned to the specialized unit for the investigation and prosecution miscellaneous offenses by hand. Let's see here. This could contain okay, you know what? I do see this now. This is an autopsy. It may contain sensitive information. So if you don't want to hear this part, just please go on the playlist to the next part of the story. Um, and thank you for listening to that point. I'm giving you a little bit of time to get to there. Okay. So the undersigned, attorney Rene Alberto Galvan Onsorega Gora, expert forensic doctor of Baja California Sur District Attorney's Office, ID number 632734 and SSA Registry 79278, assigned to the Forensic Service Bureau, named to intervene in SJC 30632022, page assignment, per official letter, issues this report. Okay, here we go. Was to examine and identify a cadaver, determine causes of death of whom, when alive, was named Robinson, Shanquella Bernata, female, apparently 25 years old, determine approximate time of death, make a detailed description of the external and internal injuries, as well as the other objectives of the necropsy, the following internationally accepted protocols. Necropsy is the Spanish word for autopsy. Material used is a surgical table, a saw, a scalpel, thumb forceps, measuring tape, and a camera. The method is the analytical and deductive medical forensic scientific methodology will be used in this intervention. Techniques used are the Virchow Kitansky mixed photographing and video during the procedure. Techniques used will be mixed photographs and sampling. The description is the forensic legal or medical examination and necropsy. The cadaver was received and packaged in a white plastic bag, duly labeled and preserved with a chain of custody registry. Brought at 20:30 hours to the autopsy table at the Medical Forensic Service on October 29 of this year. Later, at 0900 hours on October 30th, 2022, we gathered at the autopsy table at the Medical Forensic Service to examine, identify, and perform a necropsy at the cadaver of whom was called in life Robinson Shanquella Bernata. Physical description is age 25, sex female, skin color black, anthropometry, stature 165 centimeters, approximate weight is 65 kilograms, build is regular and hair color is black, type curly, size short, hair insertion high, face shape oval, size broad, medium forehead, type rounded, size medium, forehead type oval, size small, hair insertion medium, eyebrow type scarce and tattooed, type thick, size medium, color dark, proximity separate, direction horizontal, eye type oval, size medium, color coffee, nose type broad, size large, point rounded, side convex base, broad, nares type large. Size large, lips, thick, corners, horizontal, denture, complete, dental work, malformations, no, ear type oval, size small, lobes unattached. Description of special peculiarities. Scars, no. Tattoos, yes, in the anatomic snuff box. In right anatomic snuff box? Okay, I've got to Google that. What is an anatomic snuff box? I know that you guys are smart and you guys know out there. You guys are probably yelling it at me. But this one, I don't know. Let me see. Oh my gosh, it's the third thing in the thing, so other people must be looking at this too. Okay, so it's the anatomic snuff box. The anatomical snuff box is the surface anatomy feature described as a triangular depression on the dorsum of the hand at the base of the thumb. The anatomical snuff box is prominently visible upon ulnar deviation of the wrist and extension and abduction of the thumb. Wow, that is something I did not know. I will tell you something about my anatomical snuff box is that there's a big old scar on my left hand because when I was 12 and there was going to be a pumpkin carving contest for the youth group, I did not know that you should not place your hand to sturdy the pumpkin while you are carving. Yeah, I saw the whole entire side of, part of my hand before it started bleeding. Oh, so, oh, oh my, that was a day. That was a day when my stepdad was not terrible, and I walked over to him, and I've shared with y'all that he was a police officer. So I walked up, and the words that were coming out of my mouth I normally would have gotten in trouble for, but I didn't get in trouble that day for. And he saw it, and he, knew first aid, and his mom was a nurse practitioner, so he actually helped me quite well, and I got stitches, and so now I know that that is my anatomic snuff box. And you all know that about me too. You all now, you see that big old pumpkin that, it shows that it's me. I'm a pumpkin. But now I've showed you the other picture of me, but I'm half pumpkin. And, so of course. All right. So anyway, back to this. Back to this. We are all smarter now knowing what an anatomic snuff box is. I would have just thought that they would have put on the inner aspect of the hand. But no, anatomic snuff box. A heart, it says, so in the right anatomic snuff box in tattoos, there is a heart-shaped figure of 3 by 3 centimeters. In the dorsal region and left shoulder to the lumbar region is a female face and flowers of 45 centimeters. So she's got a heart in the inside of her hand, and in the dorsal region and left shoulder to the lumbar region is a female face and flowers. Actually, that was pretty. Characteristics, birthmarks, or nevus? No. Description of postmortem signs. Postmortem, lividity, yes. Located at posterior regions. Disappeared when pressed, yes. Rigor mortis, yes. Located at reducible cadaveric spam, no. Dehydration, yes. Corneas with black spots, no. Lower body temperature, yes. 20 degrees centigrade. Transformational signs, putrefaction, no. Discoloration, period, no. Emphysematous, no. Collicative, no. Skeletal reduction, no. Mummification, no. Maceration, no. Saponification, no. Cadaverous entomofauna, no. Description of external injuries. Direct contusions of the frontal region of the medium part, 8 by 4 centimeters with hematoma. Direct contusion of the left iliac crest with a hematoma, 7 by 3 centimeters. The injury happened more than 12 hours before death. Before death. What? Okay, so there's a direct contusion in the frontal region of the median part with a hematoma. Frontal region. Direct contusion of the frontal region in the median part of 8 by 4 centimeters with hematoma. Frontal region. So what, her stomach? Because then it says direct contusion of the left iliac crest with a hematoma, 7 by 3 centimeters. The injury happened more than 12 hours before death. So one can only deduce that they could look at the stages of the bruising and say that, okay, based on this bruising and hematomas would look at like this at this point, and you would have to be alive for that bruise to be in that shape, color, condition. I would assume I'm trying to figure this out here. I'm trying to figure out what happened 12 hours before she died. Had there been a earlier fight? Had she fallen down when she was drinking? What happened? Okay. What happened? So we have direct contusion in the frontal region in the median part of 8 by 4 with hematoma. Direct contusion on the left iliac crest, so we're talking the hip, so left top hip with a hematoma, 7 by 3 centimeters. The injury happened more than 12 hours before death. Contusion on the right iliac crest So they're talking the other hip with the hematoma 4 by 8 centimeters. The injury happened more than 12 hours before death. What? So she had this bruising on both areas of the hip and the left iliac crest. So it's been 20 years since I've taken A&P. So let me see here. Is the pelvis. So the iliac crest, so it's like the top of your hips there. So she had big bruises on the front of her pelvis on the right and left. And then that's where they're saying the frontal region. So across her whole pelvis, she has an injury severe enough that there's this bruising across her pelvis that they say had to have happened 12 hours before death. What happened to her? What the hell happened to this girl? That's why they were acting weird, because she must have already been in a fight with them and something happened. And then maybe the fight got finished later. Because this couldn't have been from a fall. You can't fall and just injure your hips like this. Wow. And then it says contusion in the left hand's anatomic snuff box with a 2 centimeter hematoma. So her hand was also there. In the left big toe, a 1 centimeter skin excoriation. So her toe, her hand, her pelvis, her belly. But they're saying this happened before death. The hip, at least in the that frontal region. So I would imagine you're saying right there between the two iliac crests. And then when they say the contusion on the left hand's anatomic snuff box with a 2 centimeter hematoma does not say. Okay, hold on. Okay, so the next thing says something, because it says in the big left toe a 1 centimeter skin excoriation. Okay, so that's like a scrape. The anterior thorax in xiphoid shows signs of defibrillator burns in a 6 by 5 centimeter area, and this is the only one with post-mortem characteristics. Okay. So the other injuries they are saying happened well before her death. With the way that they said that this was the C1 and C2, that would have caused a more sudden death. Was it not complete? And was she alive for 12 hours after the beating? The right eyeball has sclerotic internal hemorrhagic zone of 0.5 centimeters. Sampling, yes. Cavities, vaginal and anal. Nail scraping, others. Blood sample for study, packed and given to the forensic chemical lab through chain of custody. Post-mortem fingerprinting, yes. External examination of the cadaver. Clothing, tank top black, jockey brand size large, purple shorts without size, Love University brand, and no underwear, without shoes. Venoclysis in the right extremity, and let's check out that term. Venoclysis. Enocy Lysis, venoclisis. What? Venoclisis in the right extremity. It says venoclisis is indicated in shock and as prophylaxis for shock in certain cases of hemorrhage and dehydration, as in severe gastroenteritis in infants, and in any case where nutrition and fluid must be supplied when other routes fail. Okay, you know what? It says venoclisis in the right extremity. I wonder if there's a problem with the translation here. I wonder if. Okay, so down here it says venoclisis is the continuous infusion into a vein of saline or other solution. Okay, I gotcha. They're referring to the IV in her right extremity. And then it says the anterior thorax in xiphoid shows signs of defibrillator burns in a 6.5 area. This is the only one with postmortem characteristics. I already said that, but they literally listed it twice. And it says these injuries can be seen before taking the clothes off. So she was wearing a tank top, no underwear, and without shoes. Tank top and purple shorts. So you could see from the tank top and the purple shorts, you could see um the bruising on her pelvis. Now, internal examination opening of the cavities. The cavities were opened with the mixed technique, and this was found. The head had a frontal region of the scalp and muscles show a 12 centimeter hematoma. The skull has no information. Number one, the cranial cavity has no information. The brain weighed 1,200 grams. The brain matter was edematous and slightly congestive. The cortex has no relevant information. The central nervous system has ventricles and they are edematous and hemorrhages. The cerebellum edematous and the brainstem edematous. The medulla oblongata is normal. Okay, so essentially what that's saying is her whole brain was swollen and had areas of bleeding, essentially, to put that in layman's terms. But monsters, absolute monsters. The neck. Oh, this poor baby. The left lateral neck shows a 7 by 2 centimeter infiltrate with atlas and medullary dislocation. Again, that's an internal decapitation. The thorax. The lungs, congestive and basal, edematous and hemorrhagic. I would say that that could be from CPR. I don't know why else her lungs would be hemorrhaging. The abdomen, no information. The digestive system has no information. The esophagus has no information. The stomach has no alterations and the liver size is normal. The color is red. The gallbladder is size 10 centimeters. The consistency is normal. The color is greenish and the pancreas size is 16 centimeters. The consistency is normal. The spleen is 12 centimeters. The intestines are small with no information, and the large intestine is no information. The genitourinary system has no information, and the right kidney has no information, and the left kidney has no information. The pelvis and the bladder have no information. The upper extremities have a 2 centimeter contusion in the anatomic snuff box. Lower extremities in the left big toe, a 1 centimeter skin excoriation. The backbone, no information. Osteomuscular system is no information. The genitalia has no information, and there is a 20 centimeter area from the vulvar region down to each thigh. It doesn't say what about it. It says there is a 20 centimeter area from the vulval region down to each thigh, but it doesn't say what. It just says there's a 20 centimeter area from that down to each thigh. I don't know. It doesn't say if there's a contusion or anything there. It says photography, yes. Video, no. Evidence taken, yes. What type? Organic. Samples taken, yes. And blood sample for clinical test. It says the evidence or samples found were sent to rubber stamp seal, chemistry, toxicology, in the evidence room. And then it says notes, comments, and special analysis says we can say that the autopsy findings and it just has a couple of names there. And it goes down and it says here, and it says conclusions. We can say that based on the aforesaid and the findings that the cause of death to whom in life was called Robinson Shanquella Bernata, number one cause of death was the atlas and medullary dislocation, which, as we say in layman's term, that's an internal decapitation. Number two, the type and manner of death is violent. She had a violent internal decapitation by the people she thought were her friends. Now, there's a lot of sensitivity in the genders and the gender identification in this case, as Shanquella was, I believe, the only cisgender female in the group. There may have been one other cisgender, and the others were transgender. They were assigned male at birth, and they had transitioned to female. As the Mexican authorities put this as a femicide, it was interesting because of the genders and the sensitivity to gender in this case. I believe what they were saying is that they had a problem with her. They picked on her because she was female, born female. I don't know how they derived that that was the basis of the fight or the source of resentment. And I don't know why the case has been dropped. Because what they did to her needs to be punished. Number 3 says the pre existing pathology is unknown. It says the time of death is between 17 and 20 hours from when the necropsy was performed, autopsy. And it says the signs of survival, yes. Does the cadaver show signs of torture? No. So signs of survival, I think, probably means that they tried to revive her. I think that that's just something missed in translation. I could be wrong. It says the determination if the injuries are post-mortem, and it says no, we found defibrillator injuries consistent with resuscitation efforts, and this injury is in the xiphoid appendix. So, between your ribs, there's that little um, thing, kind of, would hang down kind of like a thumb. And that's your xiphoid process, and that can actually puncture your heart if CPR is done wrong. Um, I believe it can also break off, but where it says that there's an injury in the xiphoid appendix, um, I don't know if it was fractured in the CP. I mean, probably in the CPR effort, in the resuscitation efforts. True CPR, where you are trying to save a life, is a pretty aggressive process, but it's life or death. It says the end. The number 7 says the end of the necropsy was 1100 hours, and 8 says was the cadaver identified, and it says yes. Her funeral was so beautiful, and her casket was absolutely gorgeous. It was all done in this holographic, beautiful, beautiful, beautiful color. And they had just this huge, huge celebration of life for her. So beautiful. Look it up if you can. So then let's see here. The government of the state of Baja California Sur, State Attorney General's Office, Bureau of Forensic Sciences and Field Forensics. Let's see here. And they're talking about the way that she was lying down for the autopsy. Um, the body was in a supine position, so she was laid on her back. It's basically the only thing here. No heartbeat, no breathing. They check that. And then the contusions that they said, where it says where now they left that word out because it says, where it says the types of injury that they saw, it says the frontal region of the head. So, okay, that's what they missed. They forgot that word when they were saying the frontal region, yeah, of the head. That makes a little more sense. So she was hit so hard in the front of her head that it caused her spine and her head to be separated. If you can imagine the way that she was sitting on the ground and assailant was attacking her, it wouldn't surprise me if her attacker had swung around and brutally kicked her in the head. It would make more sense to me that that's what happened, given it says that, there's the direct contusion in the frontal region of the head. But I just don't see how they can say that the right and left iliac crest bruising was from 12 hours before, unless she survived 12 hours after the beating. Then it says a friction burn from the superficial friction burn on the left ankle. They had said the toe, the other thing, and they have the markings here where they're showing them, and so they show the drawing where they are showing that, on her front hips, and then on the ankle, and then in the front of her head, so they're really showing that forehead area where it had um the other bruising. Oh, guys, this is terrible. So who's got jurisdiction? Do we have jurisdiction because it's United States citizens and it was a United States citizen who was murdered in a foreign country? It's a tough argument. Will Mexico extradite? It's tough. They knew what they were doing. They packed up fast and got out of the country and didn't tell anybody they were leaving. I cannot believe that nothing has been done. This happened late October. Now, like I say, the Idaho 4 happened right after, and, that's all anybody's really, talked about. That's been on every headline. And Shanquella, kind of got forgotten. But we're not going to let her be forgotten on our watch. I'll continue to watch for anything official. And if there's any updates on this or if there's any answers to this, basically, I believe this was, I saw, a little presser where it just showed like a press conference where they brought this, to the president and said, this happened and I don't see any kind of response. I didn't hear what happened from there. So they put that letter forth that said this. As you guys heard the first part of it, it doesn't make any sense of what they're asking or saying. I mean, they should have laid out more clearly what they're asking for, in my opinion. They should say, look, is this going to be up to the Mexican authorities? Will the Mexican authorities extradite and will we support that extradition? Or are we going to prosecute here? Because in the way that they would be able to do that is if this was somehow planned. If they can show through text messaging and otherwise that they were planning on doing something terrible to her and they were going to do it down there, then that's how they could tie it to here, as was done in the other case that I'm going to put in this playlist. So you'll be able to hear how that was handled in the other case that I talked about in the three suitcases story. The one is really sad. How her boyfriend and her killed her mom, and okay. So yeah, that's at the end of this, just so you can hear kind of how that was handled jurisdictionally and it has been done before. I mean, basically, the Mexican authorities have to deal with this. They have to pull these people back down, extradite them back down, and prosecute. They need this is there's no way, like I say, unless they can prove that there were text messages between them where this was a planned event and they lured her down there to do this down there or something. But it doesn't sound like it was. It sounds like something got out of hand. Were they using her for her money and her generosity? From what I heard, she was so generous and loved in the community, and she was very talented in hair. And I believe she had her own salon. Um, and she was just well known for the amazing styles that she could do with the lace wigs and the extensions. Well, this one's a tough one, guys. I'm sorry. I didn't think it was going to be quite this heavy. Thank you for listening as always, and this will be in a playlist to make the most sense of it. Thank you for listening. Bye-bye.